The stability of your pulse controls how sharply you perceive reality. You think deep focus is just willpower, but there's a direct circuit between the subtle beat of your heart and the coherence of your mind. Imagine tuning an instrument by gently swaying its strings. That's what your autonomic nervous system does to your brainwaves. When physiological rhythms like Baroreflex signals become extremely steady, they essentially entrain or lock onto specific high-frequency patterns in your cortex. This isn't mystical woo. It is biophysical resonance. We are mapping the exact moment a predictable internal rhythm translates into that feeling of pure presence, that deep flow state where everything just clicks into place. It turns out that the most profound moments of clear presence, those aha snaps, aren't just random flashes of insight. They are rooted in deep biological stability. When your autonomic nervous system settles into a rhythmic coherence, a kind of internal synchronization driven by tiny shifts in blood pressure signals, it fundamentally changes how your brainwaves talk to each other. Think of it like tuning an orchestra. The underlying physiological rhythm, whether through heart rate variability or vagal tone, acts as the conductor's score. This specific entrainment locks neural patterns into those states we call flow or pure awareness. It bridges the gap between a feeling and measurable physics. We used to think deep inner states were purely abstract, but the data suggests they have a precise physical blueprint. Imagine your brain acting like an orchestra. Sometimes the conductor is chaotic noise, and other times it hits that perfect harmonic resonance. Researchers found this synchronization isn't random. It's regulated by our internal autonomic rhythm. Specifically, tiny shifts in heart pressure detected by baroreceptors can modulate electrical patterns across the cortex. This vagal feedback loop essentially fine-tunes your awareness, allowing moments of intense clarity or what people call that aha moment. It shows presence isn't just a feeling, it's an oscillation signature we can start to measure. What if pure consciousness isn't just about thinking deeply, but about matching rhythm? Think of your brain like an orchestra tuning up. When heart rate and breath find a perfect, synchronized groove, that's not just relaxation, that is harmonic resonance. The body acts as the conductor setting the frequency for peak mental states. It suggests our subjective sense of flow or divine alignment has hard wiring in it. We are literally entraining neural patterns to physiological signals like HRV. But wait, some researchers argue these effects are purely placebo. How much control do we actually have over this coupling? The data is only starting to map how the ancient vagus nerve becomes a modern frequency generator for deep presence. What happens when that internal alignment snaps out of sync? You need to see what happens next. Imagine your internal rhythm isn't just keeping you alive, it's sculpting what you experience. We used to think consciousness was purely abstract, but this research shows that everything starts with a tiny flutter of blood pressure regulated by the Baroreflex loop. It is like tuning an impossibly complex orchestra where every single instrument is governed by your autonomic nervous system. These subtle physiological shifts, detected when heart rate variability alters how quickly signals bounce between brain regions, aren't just noise, they are coherent signatures. The initial feedback from that receptor fires, suggesting a shift toward pure awareness, but what happens next? The precise way those rhythmic inputs lock into specific high-frequency neural patterns is the piece of the puzzle we still have to map completely. Think about peak clarity or total presence. You feel perfectly aligned, right? But research suggests this isn't just mental discipline. It's a physical state of profound equilibrium. Your autonomic nervous system is acting like an internal metronome. When that rhythm stabilizes, specifically through subtle shifts in your vagal tone tracked by Baroreflex signals, it allows the brain to stop generating background static. It moves from random noise to pure signal coherence, what scientists call coherent state transition. But here's where it gets weird. This physical stability seems linked not just to better focus, but potentially to moments of genuine mystical insight or profound aha revelations. How does a tiny shift in heart rate mechanics generate total awareness? That connection is far stranger than we thought. We always assumed that achieving peak clarity was purely a matter of mental discipline, right? That it came from sheer force of will or focus. But what if we've been looking in the wrong place entirely? What if the deepest states of awareness aren't just something you achieve with your mind, but rather they are fundamentally dictated by your body's rhythm, the subtle ebb and flow of blood pressure regulating itself? Think of it like a conductor leading an orchestra. Sometimes the music isn't played by the musicians themselves, but by the tempo set in their heartbeats. This is where Baroreflex signals stop being background noise and start becoming the fundamental tuning mechanism for consciousness itself. We found something even stranger connecting these loops. The assumption we all made was that peak consciousness is just a matter of willpower or some sudden chemical surge. But what if it's much simpler and far more mechanical? What if those moments of absolute clarity aren't mystical breakthroughs at all, but highly specific rhythmic conditions within your nervous system? Think of the brain not as a chaotic storm, but like an orchestra that needs perfect synchronization to play in tune. The twist is realizing that stability inside you dictates how loud and clear that music can be. Which means something nobody expected for understanding true presence. It's all tied up in the subtle pulses of your heart. The real revelation here isn't just that your heart rate affects how you feel, it's about tuning in to its subtle rhythm for maximum focus. Think of deep concentration not as sheer willpower, but like achieving perfect internal harmony, much like a well-tuned orchestra section locking into a shared beat. When the autonomic nervous system stabilizes those peripheral signals through Baroreflex action, it permits what we call inner observer state pure awareness. You don't have to find clarity, you can cultivate stability. Start by focusing on extending your exhale just slightly past your inhale for 3 minutes daily. That small physiological nudge trains the vagal tone toward that resonant state of presence. The full research archive is at jmthomasofficial.com. Stop looking purely outward for clarity. What if your greatest insights are simply echoes of your body's deep, rhythmic harmony? We've traced how subtle shifts in nerve signaling, the very ebb and flow detected by baroreceptors, directly shape what you perceive as an aha moment. It's not just about thinking, it is biophysical alignment. Think of peak focus like a perfectly tuned orchestra where every instrument, from the slowest beat to the fastest spark, is in resonant sync. Your actionable takeaway is this: stability precedes insight. Prioritize regulating your autonomic rhythm over forcing thought patterns. The full research archive is at jmthomasofficial.com.